Here's the recap of the first season of It. Welcome to Derry. The story takes place in 1962 in a town called Derry. A boy named Matty tries to escape from this place because his dad keeps beating him up. He hits a ride and gets into a car with a family that seems normal at first glance. However, it soon becomes clear that this is not true. They all start acting really weird. A woman gives birth to a monster, and it attacks Matty. 4 months later, the boy's friends begin to see and hear strange things related to their friend. Lily and 2 other boys decide to find out where Matty disappeared to, no matter what. They are joined by a girl named Ronnie, who tells them that she also hears strange singing coming from the sewers. They realize that the song is from a certain movie, and since Ronnie's father works at a movie theater, the children sneak in. They start the movie, but a monster appears and kills all the children except Lily and Ronnie. The girls decide not to tell the police the truth, as they will be considered crazy. But because of this, law enforcement accuses Ronnie's father, Hank, of everything. The children's bodies are missing, and the man is being questioned. He faces the death penalty, and Ronnie begs Lily to tell the authorities what really happened. The girl does not want to do this, as she will be sent to a mental hospital. However, soon after, Lily is attacked by the monster again. Of course, no one else saw this, and she is considered cuckoo. Because of this, the girl is sent to the Juniper Hill Asylum. Meanwhile, Major Leroy Hanlon and his best friend Russo arrive at a military base near Derry. Leroy doesn't know why he was transferred here, but that same night he is attacked by people in gas masks who demand that he hand over secret information. The man is not afraid, and together with his friend, fights them off. He reports the incident to his superiors, and the attackers are quickly found. However, Leroy notices inconsistencies and realizes that it was all a setup. General Francis Shaw admits this and explains why Leroy was called here. It turns out that after an injury Leroy sustained on a mission in the past, he no longer feels fear, and it is this ability that they need. In the woods near Derry, there is an object that the military has been searching for some time. It instills fear in people, and ordinary soldiers cannot cope with its searches. This object is hidden and can only be found by locating certain items that conceal it. For this purpose, they have Officer Dick Halloran. He has unusual abilities, including the power to sense these objects, so Leroy will work with him. He is interested in why all this is necessary. General Shaw replies that the object can be used as a weapon against the Soviet Union, as the threat of nuclear strikes on America is closer than ever. To begin with, he sends Leroy and Dick to survey the forest from the air. But this attempt turns out to be a failure. Dick begins to suffer from hallucinations and almost throws himself out of the helicopter. At the very last moment, Leroy saves him. Soon Leroy's family arrives in Derry. His wife is named Charlotte, and his son is Will. The boy has a hard time fitting in at school, but he befriends Ronnie and a guy named Rich. After some time following Dick's tip, the military digs up a car with dead bodies inside, belonging to a gang operating in 1935. According to rumors, the entity sought by the military was also spotted at that time. General Shaw guesses who could be involved in this case. He visits Rose, one of the leaders of the Native Americans. It turns out that in 1908, when Shaw was still a child, he wandered into the forest and stumbled upon that monster. Rose saved him and they became friends. The girl told him what was happening here and even casually shared with him information on how to find the monster. After some time, Shaw left the town with his parents, and the further you are from Derry, the faster you forget what happened there. But when Shaw became a general, he was injected with some kind of experimental substance that boosted his memory. That's when he remembered everything that had happened to him as a child. The man realizes that Rose won't tell him exactly how to find the items that hide the monster, so he decides to act more cunningly. Meanwhile, Lily is discharged from the mental hospital, where she meets a nurse named Ingrid, who believes everything the girl says and tells her that she will always listen to her. Soon, Lily, Ronnie, Will, and Rich team up and decide to find evidence of the monster's existence so that the police will release Ronnie's father. They sneak into the cemetery at night, hoping to take pictures of the monster, and they succeed. But they almost die when ghosts start chasing them. After developing the photos, they see the silhouette of a clown in one of them. The main characters go to the police station and show the photo to Officer Bowers. But since it is not clear, the police simply laugh at the children. Meanwhile, Leroy takes his son Will fishing, and the monster attacks the boy again. The father manages to pull the child out of the water. He notices that there are real bruises and cuts on his arm, after which he decides to take his family out of the city to a military base, where they will be safe. The children realize that the monster is deliberately scaring them so that it can eat them, appearing before them in the form they fear most. So the main characters decide to use strong sedatives that Lily stole from her mother to prevent the monster from scaring them. Meanwhile, Lily's best friend Marge is attacked by the monster and frightened into injuring her own eye. This leads her to join the main characters. General Shaw wants to find out what exactly the Native Americans know about the monster. He guessed that after visiting Rose, she would send her people to find out what exactly they had managed to dig up. So the military catches one of the scouts named Taniel. They send Dick to him, who, as it turns out, can, roughly speaking, read minds, but at the same time causes this man incredible pain. Dick penetrates Taniel's consciousness. From the legends told by his ancestors, he learns that many millennia ago, a meteorite fell to Earth. It split open, and a certain entity emerged from it, one that could take any form. Centuries later, a tribe of Native Americans learned that the meteorite was the creature's cage, and a brave tribal chief broke off a piece to make a weapon capable of protecting his people. For many centuries, they did not go near the forest where this creature lived. However, settlers appeared. The natives tried to warn them of the danger, but they did not listen. People began to hunt in the forest where it lived and became its prey themselves. The monster grew stronger as it fed and was able to leave the forest where the meteorite had fallen. Realizing that the tribe is in danger, the chief's daughter decides to take desperate measures. She goes into the forest to chip off more stone from the meteorite. Her mother dies in the process, but the girl manages to get what she wants. The children realize that they will not be able to kill the monster, so they decide to create a new cage for it. They bury 13 shards around the forest, and have since guarded these places as sacred, as this is the only thing that prevents the monster from escaping. However, settlers had already made their home in this area, and centuries later, the city of Derry would be built on this site. Dick hears the whole story, then learns that one of these shards is located under a ruined building in the city. Rose comes to see the general. She realizes that her scout, Taniel, has broken the law, but asks to see him. Shaw allows it, and Rose learns that the military has read his memory, but received inaccurate information. She gives Taniel the very shard that has protected their people for centuries. To avoid confusion, I will refer to it as a dagger. Meanwhile, the general tells Leroy that their task is to find the shards arranged like a cage, slowly move them toward the center, and ultimately take control of the monster. Shaw equips a squad to search for the first shard. It includes Leroy with his best friend Russo, Dick, Taniel, as someone who knows where to go, and a few other soldiers. The group enters a ruined house, descends into a well in the basement, and walks through old tunnels. All the soldiers begin to see hallucinations and die one by one. Taniel manages to escape, but he loses his dagger somewhere in the water doing so. Dick gets the worst of it, sinking into his memories, where a monster in the form of his father opens some box. After that, Dick begins to see dead people. At this time, the children find Maddie in their shelter. He is the boy who disappeared at the very beginning of the series. He tells them that he managed to escape, and that some children are still being held captive by the monster. The main characters decide to rescue them. Maddie shows them a path that leads through the sewage treatment plant. They wander around in circles in the tunnels for a while and realize they are lost. Here Maddie starts acting really weird, and we realize that he's the monster who shows up as Pennywise the Clown. The children scatter, and Lily finds herself in a dead end. She finds the dagger in the water and picks it up, scaring the monster away. The other children bump into Leroy, who thinks it's another hallucination, and Russo shields them from the shot with his body. After that, the man dies. Leroy is furious that his son disobeyed him and went into the sewer. He orders him to stay at the base, but Will ignores his father and runs away to his friends. Meanwhile, Leroy finds Dick, who tells him what the monster did to him. It turns out that Dick had these abilities from an early age, but he could also see dead people. However, this was not a gift, but a curse. The dead could also see him and never stopped pursuing him, which was a real torture. Dick's grandmother helped him, you could say, to seal this ability deep inside him. But the monster unsealed it. Now Dick constantly sees the dead and is afraid to pay attention to them, because they will never leave him alone. The man gets drunk and goes to bed. Lily tells her friends about the dagger she found in the tunnels and says that they can use it to kill the monster. The others are too scared by recent events and don't want to go back into the tunnels. Lily goes back to Nurse Ingrid to share her feelings with her. No one answers, so the girl enters without asking. She climbs into the attic and notices a photo album in which she finds a photo of Pennywise the clown. Ingrid appears and tells her story. It turns out that when she was a child, she performed in the circus with her father, whose stage name was Pennywise the clown. One day her father disappeared. In fact, he was eaten by a monster, and it was probably then that it realized that clowns attract children, which is why it took on the appearance of Pennywise. Ingrid did not believe that her father was dead. And then, in 1935, she heard from the child about a clown in the basement. Ingrid went there with her and saw the monster. She just thought it was her father, who had gone a little crazy. The monster devoured the child and disappeared for 27 years. And Ingrid tried to find him all this time. Now that Pennywise has reappeared, the woman wants to see her father again. Ronnie's father, Hank, is sent to Shawshank Prison, but on the way the bus is attacked by a monster. Hank manages to survive and hides in the woods. Soon he meets his lover, who turns out to be Ingrid, and asks her for help. After that, together with Leroy's wife Charlotte, they find a place where he can hide. Earlier, black soldiers set up a club for themselves in the woods. That's where Hank hid. The children also come there, all except Lily. Ronnie and his father reunite and think about what to do next. Meanwhile, because Hank has escaped, Police Chief Bowers is fired from his job. However, he soon receives a tip about where to find the fugitive. Together with other townspeople, he arrives at the club in the woods and demands that they hand over Hank, but the soldiers refuse. The townspeople then lock the doors from the outside, set fire to the building, and start shooting at it. Almost everyone inside is killed. Pennywise also appears there, enjoying what is happening and eating some of the people. Dick realizes that the only way to save people is to ask the dead for advice. The Native Americans' leader gives him a hint, and several characters manage to escape. Among them were Hank, Ronnie, and Will. Marge and Rich remained inside. The boy sacrifices himself to save Marge, with whom he has been in love all this time. It turns out that it was Ingrid who tipped off the former police chief about where to find Hank. She knew that if a massacre broke out at the club, Pennywise would definitely show up, and she would be able to meet him. That's exactly what happened. Only now Ingrid finally realizes that he's not really her father, but it's too late. It shows her deadlights, causing her to go into a catatonic state, and in the morning, she is taken away by medics. The survivors, Marge, Will, and Ronnie, are sent home. Meanwhile, Hank is brought to Rose's place to hide for a short time, even though everyone in town believes he died in the fire. Dick is surrounded by dead spirits who talk to him nonstop. Leroy tries to persuade him to continue searching for the shards, and ultimately succeeds. Dick follows the chief leader and shows the military where to dig. He also reports that he no longer senses the monster's presence, as it has fallen asleep, sated from eating people. At a meeting of Native Americans' tribes, their leaders also confirm that the monster has stopped hunting and will return in 27 years. Soon, the military digs up the shard and takes it to the base. There, they plan to destroy it. Leroy is shocked and decides to stop the scientists. He doesn't understand what's going on. The Major thought they would use the shards to control the monster. The General calls him in and explains everything. It turns out that they don't actually want to use the monster as a weapon against the Soviet Union, but to control the United States people. Their society has long since begun to crumble, and civil war may soon break out. That is precisely why they need the monster. After all, when people are afraid, there is no rioting, looting, or unrest in the streets. Shaw orders the shard to be destroyed. Meanwhile, Pennywise, who had been asleep, wakes up, realizing that the cage has weakened. The monster covers the entire town in fog, and the temperature drops below zero. Pennywise goes to the school, where he shows the children deadlights. We are not told exactly what these deadlights are, but we will stick to the idea that they are the essence of the monster. Pennywise also visits Will. He hypnotizes him and, together with the other children, tries to get out of the cage. Lily, Ronnie, and Marge go after Will, but the dagger begins to drive them crazy because it doesn't want to go back. Nevertheless, they agree to carry it in turns and continue on their way. Leroy learns that his son is missing. Together with Dick, they go to Rose, who tells them everything. Now the main goal is to prevent the monster from escaping its cage, and to restore it, they can use a dagger to replace the destroyed shard. Rose gives Dick a special potion so that the dead will no longer bother him. He concentrates on the dagger and finds out where the children are going. Meanwhile, the girls catch up with Pennywise and try to stop him, but he is too strong. He almost kills Marge, but the adults arrive just in time. Dick enters Pennywise's mind and temporarily neutralizes him. All the children come out of their catatonic state, and the adults take them away. Now they need to take the dagger to the base of the tree on the other side of the frozen lake and stick it into the ground. The general appears with his soldiers, and they kill Taniel. Leroy gives the dagger to his son and asks him to quietly take it to the tree while he distracts the soldiers. Pennywise eventually regains consciousness and sees the general standing in front of him. He kills him, then runs towards the children, who have almost brought the dagger to the right place. The adults fight off the soldiers and try to stop Pennywise. However, he is immortal and constantly regenerates. The children cannot overcome the shard, but then Rich's ghost appears and helps his friends at the very last moment. After that, Pennywise retreats and falls asleep for 27 years. After Rich's funeral, Marge reveals that Pennywise spoke to her at the lake. He told her that time is not linear for him and that he exists simultaneously in every second of his life. The clown also tells Marge that she will give birth to a son who will eventually kill him. This will happen in the second It movie. Marge suspects that Pennywise may try to kill their relatives in the past so that they are not born. However, they can no longer influence this. After some time, Ronnie and his father leave Derry. Leroy and his family decide to stay and take on the burden of protecting the town, as does Rose. Dick also leaves and goes to work at a hotel in the mountains. This is a reference to the 1980 film, The Shining. 26 years later, we see the asylum where Ingrid is being treated. She hears someone scream and goes into the room. There we witness the death of the main character's mother from the first It movie. This is the end of the first season. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the like button. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.